Yesterday, a huge ruling from a federal judge in Baton Rouge, I guess it was. I tell you what, before we get into yesterday's ruling and the details and what it means, give us a little 2, 3, 4 month bio on how all this came to be, starting off with the legislature, well, the law that said that doctors at abortion clinics have to have admitting privileges at a nearby hospital.
Yeah, that's right. So back in 2014, a lot of people will remember what was called the Unsafe Abortion Protection Act. It became Act 620 of the 2014 regular session. And look, it was a law that passed by a landslide majority of both houses, bipartisan support. It passed 88-5 in the House of Representatives, 34-3 in the Louisiana Senate. And here's what it did, real simple. It basically said if you're going to be an abortion provider, if you're a physician in Louisiana who performs outpatient abortions, you have to have admitting privileges to a hospital within 30 miles of your clinic where you do the abortion procedures. And now, obviously, the common sense, reasonable idea behind this is that if you have complications during the abortion procedure, which is quite common, quite frequent, you need to be able to get the poor lady to a hospital so that she can have continuity of care and protect, her health. The legislature passed it by an overwhelming landslide majority, but it was challenged in court almost immediately after it was signed into law by the governor. We litigated that, a 6-day bench trial last summer in federal court in Baton Rouge, and we lost the case. I helped argue the case, was co-counsel in it. We lost the case because Judge John W. DeGravelle, who was appointed by Obama to the court about a year earlier, he ruled in favor of the abortion providers who challenged the law. And he said, look, this law is unconstitutional on its face. It has to be enjoined, and he did that. He gave us a 120-page ruling declaring the law unconstitutional. We appealed that, and yesterday was the big seismic development.
So tell us about the ruling yesterday and exactly what it means.
So we went to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, which people probably recognize. That's the court that presides over Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. And we appealed to the court. We made a very simple argument. Look, the judge is way out of bounds here. You know, the Fifth Circuit has already ruled in similar cases, similar admitting privileges laws in Texas and Mississippi, and ruled in favor of the laws, that it is a common sense restriction to protect women's health. And so this judge is out of bounds. He needs to get his wings clipped, to put it in layman's terms. And we did an emergency appeal to the court asking for a stay of the district court's ruling. And yesterday, a 3-judge panel unanimously, in the law, we would call this a slam dunk, my friend. It was a 15-page opinion, 2 females and 1 male, by the way, on this panel. And they said, indeed, that the district court judge was out of bounds. Louisiana's law can be enforced. It is not unconstitutional on its face. And by the way, this Louisiana is going to win, is very, very likely to win its full appeal on the merits. So,
well, the Center for Reproductive Rights says they're going to immediately appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah, they will. I don't think the court is going to accept that appeal, and the reason is that the Fifth Circuit has looked at this issue now 3 different times. They've given it very careful analysis under the rubric, under the analysis given by the U.S. Supreme Court under Roe v. Wade and its progeny. And they have determined that it's clearly constitutional. So I think this law is going to stand, and it is a great day in Louisiana because, as I said, my friends, this is going to protect women who are in these vulnerable crisis situations, and that's what the state should be about.
Well, the state we have 4 open remaining abortion clinics. Only one, and tell me if I'm accurate, only the one here in Shreveport, Hope, has a doctor with admitting privileges. Is that the only one that will be allowed to stay open?
No, there's one in New Orleans as well, the Women's Health Center, Health Care Center they call it, which will be allowed to stay open under the law. But look, the intention of the law was not to close down abortion clinics. The intention behind it was to protect women's health. Now, if this has an incidental effect of closing down clinics because they have substandard levels of care and they have doctors who can't get admitting privileges to a hospital, you don't want those people operating on you anyway. So this is a great public service. If we only have 2 clinics left in the state, so be it.
Mr. Mike, what's the argument?
So there will be 2 left. There's the reports in the Advocate and NOLA saying there will only be 1 left.
No, well, according to the filings in the court and the plaintiffs in the case themselves, you have at least 2 clinics that will stay open. Now, this means for us locally, we have 2 abortion clinics in Shreveport-Bossier, the Hope Clinic in Shreveport and the Bossier City Medical Suite. the Bossier City Medical Suite has a doctor who has not been allowed to obtain privileges in nearby hospitals. So that one will close, and Bossier will no longer have an abortion provider.
Mike, what is the logic, or what is the argument made by the abortion clinics, or at least a legal team for the local, across the state abortion clinics, that that a doctor there performing abortions shouldn't need to have admitting privileges at a hospital?
Well, it's a curious thing, Robert. I mean, basically, they don't really have an argument on that basis. All they say is, well, this creates an undue burden, quote unquote, on a woman's right to choose. I mean, that's the phrase that comes out of all the federal court cases. The courts disagree. They say if the burden is incidental, then that's just a part of this.
Pardon me, these are the same people, these are the same people that say, well, if we ban abortion, it's nothing but back alley abortions. So obviously there's an immediate hypocrisy when it concerns to the health of the patient.
There is indeed, and I want to tell you this just as a very quick glimpse about what we're facing on the other side there. I mean, I was proud to represent the state in this case because it's a very important one. And during the 6-day trial last summer, we were questioning the abortion doctors on the stand. They all went by aliases, Dr. Doe number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and they were testifying behind screens so that no one could see their identity in the court. And I asked this one doctor, one who does abortions in our area, Shreveport Bossier, and I said, Doctor, why aren't these restrictions necessary and reasonable? He says, oh, we never make mistakes. I said, well, that's not true. Here's the data. Here's the stats. But how proficient are you in your procedure? He says, oh, I've done so many abortions. I'm so good. I never make mistakes. I said, well, just for reference, how many abortions have you done? He says, north of 35. We said, what? He said 35,000 abortions. One abortion doctor has performed 35,000 abortions in our area alone.
Let me ask you this. Will the clinics have to close immediately, or can they remain open while the other side appeals?
The job falls to the Department of Health and Hospitals, who are actually our client here. That's who we were defending because they have the task of enforcing the law. And according to the court ruling, they ought to begin enforcing it today, which means that anyone who is practicing or performing abortions or who is scheduled today to do that without admitting privileges should cease and desist what they're doing. We'll see what the U.S. Supreme Court does. I think they're not going to accept that case. And I think the Fifth Circuit opinion is going to stand, and it's a good thing for women's health in the state of Louisiana.
Let's bring it home to Shreveport for a minute. This will make Shreveport, we've already had high numbers. Do you anticipate we'll now I hate to say it like this, but we'll now attract even more folks who want to get an abortion?
That's the tragic byproduct of this. That's right. I mean, tragically, Shreveport Bossier was already known as the abortion capital of Louisiana. There are more abortions performed in Shreveport Bossier in those two clinics than any other in around the state, in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, or anywhere else over the last several years, because we're a regional draw, because people come from Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma to have their procedures performed there. So yes, Erin, I mean, at the end of the day, the Shreveport clinic, its volume will very likely go way up, and it, for those of us who believe in the pro-life cause, the intensity level of those efforts should go up as well.